Pardon me. Let me call the August 12th meeting of the Parks and Board of Recreation Committee Chairman to, I'll get it, to order. First item on the agenda is considering approval of the minutes for the Tuesday, July 29th meeting. Do I hear a motion?
So moved. Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Motion's approved. First item on the agenda, retirement.
Yes, Commissioners, I'd like to ask Forrest Decker to introduce Michael.
Good afternoon. Normal I'd stand up here and I'd tell you all about Michael and his 27 years and 9 months of city service, but Gene Kotlinski came in today, and he, as his supervisor, he wanted to talk about him a little bit. So,
Great.
So I'll defer to Gene.
Well, I've had the luxury of supervising Mike for the last 5 years. Mike has been a great asset for the Park Department, been a labor leader for over the last 15 years. Great smile, great attitude. When it was time to give a difficult job or a job that needed to get done, we always lead it on to Mike Hightower. He is going to be greatly missed. Mike is in a labor leader position that we are going to fill, but he's not going to be able to be replaced. And hopefully his attitude and his work ethic has kind of moved on to the other folks that he's left behind. And I just want to wish Mike a great retirement and good wishes and for 27 years. Mike.
Y'all almost made me start crying.
It doesn't look like it. You're smiling.
I'm just glad to see everybody, and I just have to move on, do other things. I got other things planned, but I'm going to miss y'all.
Well, we thank you for your service very much.
You're welcome.
Come on up, Mike.
Mike, come up.
Thanks.
And basically, in your little lifetime card there.
Okay.
Mike, thank you very much.
Thanks. All right.
Thank you. Congratulations.
Yeah, we're doing a lot of this retirement stuff. We gotta stop this here. Okay. Next item is recognition of Kansas City Illusion Senior Youth Synchro Skating Team. Gennaro. Okay, you're gonna take it? All right.
That's for them.
I was just getting ready to explain that you had left the building. Commissioners, good afternoon, and it's our honor to recognize and to thank the skating club from Line Creek, who silently does a great job every year at the national competition, and somehow the cat got out of the bag this year that they had actually won the senior youth synchro competition, which is a huge undertaking, and then we found out it wasn't even the first year. But now that we know, we wanted to make sure we brought them before you and recognize them and share the poster or the banner that'll be hung at Line Creek. So come on up, girls.
Amy. Thank you. Thank you. All right.
This is all done with volunteers and very little staff time, so Kristen, you might want to come up and get in here and share with them. Like I say, all volunteers and a little bit of staff time, so they do a great job.
Okay. Great.
Would you like to make a couple comments? Okay.
Thank you very much. These girls spend a lot of time. They're on the ice as a team for about 4 hours a week. Individually, they practice at least 3 to 4 hours in addition to that. So they spend a lot of time really perfecting their skill, and they're so passionate about it. It's nice to be recognized. Thank you.
Thank you.
Congratulations. That's great.
Next item, consideration board approval of agreement with Kansas City Jazz Museum for the 2014 Jazz Festival.
Yes, Shannon Dooley is handling this one, and I know Suzetta Parks is here representing the American Jazz Museum. So Shannon, tell us about the event coming up in October.
Yes, good afternoon, Commissioners. Annual event, Parade Park. We do close Greg Cleiss Community Center for this one day. This year it's October 11th, Saturday. Suzetta Parks is here, and she can give you more details on what the lineup is this year, what attendance was last year, and what they hope for this year.
Great.
Thanks, Shannon, and thank you all again for being a great partner for us. Last year, we had around 5,000 folks show up between the hours of 11 a.m. and 11 p.m. This year, we're aiming for 7,000 to 10,000. We've increased the marketing efforts and partnerships that we have with other groups that represent larger numbers of people. And as was last year, we've reduced our ticket price, or at least we've extended the early bird ticketing price period of $10, which is a reduction from $25. And that discounted period will run between now and the day after Labor Day. So we're doing a lot of promotion to make sure that everyone knows about that. And we're also making available to the stakeholders in the district an extension of that $10 rate if you live and work in the 18th and Vine district. So again, it's our way of thanking our family in the area, and that includes the Greg Cleiss Center. This year, the lineup includes a representative from the blues community, the jazz community, neo-soul, and R&B. Our attempt every year is to provide some sort of entertainment genre that appeals to every segment of our population. So this year, on October the 11th, we will be presenting for the blues fans, Lucky Peterson; for the R&B fans, Midnight Star; for the neo-soul fans, Michelle Indichello; and for straight ahead jazz, Roy Hargrove. Again, that's October the 11th, and we're utilizing mostly local food vendors to provide the food and beverages. And we also have a tent that will accommodate about 20 art vendors as well. And each year, both of those areas have been full to capacity in terms of people taking advantage of that opportunity to sell their wares. So thank you again. We really appreciate Parks's partnership and confidence in our ability to put on a wonderful event for the community. Any questions? I know last year you all asked if I brought any ribs for you, and we did not have those. And I don't have them again this year. So. But you will be given, VIP tickets.
Great.
Any questions?
No.
Well, thank you again.
Thank you very much.
Thank
We
you.
appreciate it.
Appreciate it.
Okay, resolution number 30272, consideration of board approval for agreement with Kansas City Jazz Museum for the 2014 Jazz Festival. Is there a motion for approval?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. Next item, presentation by Julie Steenson and Kate Bender, 2013-14 Citizen Survey.
Well, good afternoon, Commissioners. Julie Steenson, I'll be kind of beginning in the presentation with some data, and then Kate Bender will switch off a little bit midway through, as we both own a couple different aspects of this. What I wanted to reiterate from what we said last year, we're with the Performance Management Office, which is a division out of the City Manager's Office. And what we're really charged with is looking at data that helps support the operational improvements across the city in departments and so forth. So one of the things that we look at as our top outcome indicator are citizen satisfaction scores. I think that we can all agree that how our customers feel about us is of the utmost importance, and what their perception is of the services we're providing give us an idea of what we need to do and how we need to improve. And so we're here to talk specifically about parks, but I've brought a little bit of data about the citywide results that I think will be helpful We're focusing on the citizen satisfaction as an indicator of measuring both your progress here and with Parks and Recreation programs, as well as the City Council's overall priorities for the city. So a little bit of the nerdy logistics. We work with a contractor called ETC Institute. They do a lot of surveys for municipalities, the large municipalities, and we'll show you a few benchmark points in a little while, but that just sort of establishes them as a leader, and that's really good for us because that allows us to have a very large sample size and gives us a very low precision rate. So I should point out, the parks questions, though we ask the rest of the city's citizen survey questions in 4 different quarters, we ask the parks questions in 2 quarters. That allows us to ask about more city services, but also we tried to target it so that it was coming at the end and then at the beginning of some of your programming seasons. So in the fall and then again in the spring before you begin. So we could really gauge that seasonality of the programming you do. Gives us a precision rate of 2.2%. So all the results you'll see coming up where we say there is a statistically significant change, that's anything where we see 2.2% over last year's results. Again, kind of at the citywide overall level, our contractor does something really nice for us where they put together an index, basically based on the satisfaction levels of all questions in the survey. And then it spits out this one large number. And the thing to point out here simply is that over the last 4 years, our benchmark year is 2005, over the last 3 fiscal years, we've just continued to improve across the city. While our national benchmarks, all cities of 250,000 or more, has seen very small improvements. In fact, it declined in that first year when we started looking at the index. So I think that says a lot about the direction Kansas City is moving comparatively with our peers. So getting a little more detailed into your actual numbers. At the beginning of the survey, we ask overall perception of every major city service. So this question is, how satisfied are you with the quality of Parks and Recreation? And Kate and I were astounded over the last few years as we looked at this number because it wasn't moving. And we'll detail even more why that's astounding, because all the other questions were going up large percentages kind of within your section of the survey. But this wasn't moving until this year. And so we sort of attribute that to, it's just taken a while for the perception to get here and to where that very high level question, when it's embedded with all the other city services, this is the first year in a while that we've seen an increase in the overall question. So that means you're moving the needle in a big way. So again, where does it sort of fall in the context of other city services and programs that are out there? And as you can see, this is actually ordered in order of most dissatisfied. So you see kind of where dissatisfaction is getting lower and lower. So Parks and Recreation has a very low level of dissatisfaction from the public. Another thing that we do on the survey is we ask residents not only to gauge their satisfaction on various services, we ask them to rank what they would like to see us improve. And so this table takes both of those factors, the importance and the satisfaction, and does a calculation to combine them and then rank them. And so really being toward the bottom of this list is where you want to be, because that means that a citizen is saying, we don't necessarily need improvements in this area, they're fine where they're at. And again, a little bit more on benchmarking. This is that overall question again. That, as I said, we hadn't seen much movement. Because we saw a few percent increase from last year, we've moved up the scale. We're in the relatively the same place, right, you know, a little bit around the average. There is a 5% margin of error on this one. So we may be within that, we're within that margin of error at the average of all large cities. And in the last year, when we did see that increase, we actually surpassed Indianapolis on the scale. So we're moving up slowly on this one. To illustrate that In all the questions we ask for the parks section, there are 15 in total, and the last 2 years, we have just continued to see a sustained improvement. Last year, we saw some really big jumps in those figures, and this year, we've seen, again, a lot of questions saw statistically significant improvements. This gets a little bit more into the detail, and these are the actual questions within the section that on park services. And those first three, I would say that's astounding. 3 years of continuous improvement, which has really taken these services up to a very high level of satisfaction. Where it says no change, there was just no statistically significant change. So that means that where those large improvements were made from FY12 to FY13, those 8s and 9s and 11% increases, there just wasn't any decline. They were just stagnant this year, which is fine since we saw such a huge jump last year. Again, this breaks it down a little bit further. Where it appears that some of them have a little bit of an increase, I would just say that only the ones with the little blue arrows are ones that are statistically significant. And things with a little red star actually are things that were right on that margin of error, but we try not to report out things that are not statistically significant. So those are things, though, that had a decrease in dissatisfaction. So they may not have quite hit the level of increasing satisfaction, but they're moving in the right direction where people are saying that they're less dissatisfied. I would say the same is true here. The blue arrow on youth athletic programs, which saw a pretty large increase, and then swimming pools saw a decrease in dissatisfaction. And Kate's going to go into a little bit more detail about each of these questions to give you an idea of how they actually moved from year to year.
Hi, thanks for having us today. So Julie has sort of covered the big picture look at the survey and then kind of giving you an overview of the individual questions. And so just for the remainder, what I'm going to go into is just different ways we can pull additional perspectives and data out of the survey, because obviously the trend data is very important to us and we focus on that a lot, but then there's a lot of other information we can glean from it, and I'm going to try to pull some of that out. So Julie went over the concept of this important satisfaction ranking for the overall city services. So we asked that to comparing between city services, but we also, within a section, ask the same question. Please pick two of these areas that you would like to see the city work to improve, emphasize to improve. And so again, here importance isn't actually importance to exist, but importance in terms of placing an emphasis on improvement. We combine this with the satisfaction, which those are the same numbers you just saw in the last two charts, and use that to come up with the IS rank. So this tends to be things that are higher on the importance from citizens' prioritization, and then lower on satisfaction. That will produce a higher IS rank. And so we have, you can see the ranking, and then we also have the ranking from the previous year up there. And you can see there's actually some movement year over year in terms of things coming up and down the list. And that can be both because satisfaction goes up, that will push you down on the list because it's the inverse that matters. So, for instance, I know customer service last year had an IS rank fairly high, and it fell all the way down to 11 this year. So, which I think is generally good news for any department, that I think you want customer service not to be considered a major area for improvement. You see some other things comparatively rise: programs, activities at community centers, maintenance of boulevards, parkways, swimming pools. So that's kind of the big picture. And this is a tool that I know that a lot of departments have used in the past to help inform their decisions about, what citizens' priorities are for improvement. Julie talked a little bit about benchmarking on the sort of that big picture Parks and Recreation on a head-to-head basis. We also cannot benchmark. Our relationship with our contractor gives us the opportunity to benchmark on individual questions as well, because these are questions that show up on individual other cities, as well as they actually do what they call a large city survey, where they survey a number of cities, residents from a number of cities of 250,000 and more, to come up with this benchmark number and come up with an average. So you can see in the areas that are starred where we Parks and Recreation is exceeding that national benchmark for park maintenance by a pretty significant margin there, 6%. So any place in the city that we're exceeding the national benchmark, we consider that to be a pretty good story. There's other areas, walking and biking trails, again, is sort of within a 5% margin of error, and it's been ticking up. And then you can kind of see toward the bottom, these are ordered from the biggest increase over the benchmark all the way down to the lagging the benchmark the most. And in here, you just have another piece of the puzzle, really, since obviously at the bottom, as Julie said, youth athletic programs saw a big increase. So that is a good story. It was a 4% increase. So it's moving its way up. But obviously, you have the piece that's also comparing to the national benchmark. Another perspective that we can lend to the survey is looking at geography. So, it is a large sample. It's not representing, it's still 9,000 households out of, or we end up getting about 4,500 out of about 165,000 households. So we can't delve all the way down to say this street or this neighborhood, but we can get some pretty good information looking at the zip code level. And so our contractor actually provides for us these maps. What they do, and you can't tell in this one because it all is one color, which is for a reason I'll explain in a minute, but they look at by zip code the responses and come up with the average, and then they color code the map based on the scale, so the average response within a zip code. So what you see in this map here is an area where all of the zip codes are in that 3.4 to 4.2 average of what they call somewhat satisfied. And we saw, I could have done, I guess, 7 of these slides because we saw this map for all 7 of those questions up there, which is just another good piece of information along with the trends and the benchmarks. You can see if you have consistency across the city, it suggests that there aren't maybe pockets of either people who are extremely more satisfied or more discontented with the service. I did go ahead and pull out several maps that show some geographic differentiation. Specifically, I pulled them out for items that were sort of in the top half of that IS ranking. So if you'll recall, mowing and tree trimming is at the top. And so here you can see it kind of, I think everyone's probably pretty familiar with the city outlines. They don't show very well on here, but what you basically see is that same color of light blue kind of in the southern and the western part of the city, and then everything else that's harder to see is that neutral color, so kind of averaging out right in the middle there. Again, swimming pools, kind of a neutral in much of the city, and then blue kind of the 3rd district into the northeast, I think, and then the northwest section of the Northland. Youth athletic, again, mostly more neutral on this one, and but a good contingent of blue kind of in the northeast section of the Northland. And then community center programs, activities, and this is differentiated from, there is a question on maintenance, which I believe that one, community center maintenance, which I believe that was all blue, but on the programs activities question, you see primarily blue, but with kind of neutral, again, down in that western and southern portion of the city. One final perspective pulling into this to pull out of the citizen survey data. So we ask largely about satisfaction, perception, prioritization of city services, but we also ask some experiential questions at the end of the survey, which we find to be really useful in developing more information about our customer base across the city. We specifically asked 2 questions related to parks. One is, have you visited a park? And one is, have you visited a community center? Both say in Kansas City, Missouri. So, but just to look at those trends over the last few years, visiting a park saw a big increase over the last couple years, and this year was basically sustained at that same level. Community center's been, first of all, you can see about a little less than half of what the overall park magnitude is, and it's been a little bit more up and down over the last few years. We saw a decline actually last year, and then this year regained some of that margin of 1.7%. And I will say on the statistical significance, this question, the experiential questions do appear on every survey, so they have a lower margin of error. Beyond the just how many people say they attend. We can also dig a little bit into the demographics that are present on the survey. So people provide, information on gender, age, income, location, and here we can look at compare within these subgroups the percent of those subgroups that say that they have been to a park, Kansas City Park, or been to a Kansas City Community Center. And so you can see how that kind of breaks out. The top is the parks. The color coding is fading out a little bit, but most likely is that first row there. And you can see it really is sort of, well, what I think of as being parents really of young to maybe elementary school or middle school age children that are in that more likely. The percent that's after each group is the percent for that subgroup. And you can see, so it would be compared for parks to 79%. Men 25 to 34 have been there, say they've been to parks, 90% of them say they've been to parks. So least likely, men and women over 65. And then on income, you have a higher income, more likely, lower income, less likely, and then council district, fourth and sixth more likely, and third district less likely. On community centers, it's sort of a different situation. You have women almost of all ages being more likely, and men of all ages being less likely. And then on income, lower income, more likely, higher income, less likely, and then you can see the third and the sixth there. So we provided similar information last year, and I think it didn't change. The trend didn't change all that much year over year, but hopefully it provides some useful information. The final way that we can sort of look at use that user information is actually in comparison with the satisfaction. So we can look, and say, how do people who state that they've used these resources feel about the service compared to people who say that they haven't. And so we have two questions focused on parks, on actual parks. One is park maintenance and one is park facilities, and it's descriptive in the question. It talks about playgrounds, shelters, et cetera. So you can see with both questions, people who said they visited a park were more likely to be satisfied. They were also slightly more likely to be dissatisfied. You can see, though, the relative magnitude is still not high. You're talking 5% versus 2%. But that's sort of where you see the trend. Generally, you hope that people are more satisfied when they've actually experienced a resource. And then, as you'd expect, people who didn't visit are slightly more likely to be neutral. On the community center side, you see a similar trend, really. We ask, again, two questions about community centers, one about maintenance and one about programming and activities. You see more likely visitors more likely to be very satisfied, actually, and as well as slightly more likely to be dissatisfied, and non-visitors are more likely to be neutral. We also noticed when we were the slides you'd have to put them side by side, but when you look at parks and community centers, there's also, I think, some interesting comparisons in terms of the overall magnitude of park users' feelings about those resources and community center users versus those resources. So just to sort of wrap up, wanted to let you know what we have planned for the upcoming survey. We've worked with Parks Management staff to talk. We always try to review the survey on a more or less annual basis and see what's relevant and what needs to be changed and what would help improve our understanding of it. And the two main changes are actually sort of tweaking and clarifying, I think, two questions that have been really important to Parks Management, one on youth athletic programs and one on mowing and tree trimming. I think those questions have received enough attention that everyone felt like it would be better to reword them to be more, for more clarity about what we're really trying to capture. So not just athletic programs, but something that's more inclusive of all the youth programs and activities. And along the same lines, focus the tree question more along tree care. So it's not just trimming, it's removal, it's planting, it's any other activities there. And then at the same time, we're always trying to find, we have actually whole new sections we're trying to integrate in, so we're always trying to pare back where possible. And there was also, I think, agreement that a couple of the questions about registration and fees not only are lower on the prioritization, but also potentially are things that are better captured from users as opposed to citizens as a whole. We can sometimes get a sense of how important questions are by looking at the percent that don't know, and those questions both have a pretty high percent don't know, because obviously there are a number of people who haven't experienced those services. So that was sort of the logical background there. And that really brings us to the end. We have our final written report, which has all of this detail and more, and has the citywide services. We'll certainly make that available to all of you. It actually, as of Thursday, will be available on the city's website. As I think Julie mentioned, I've already forgotten, but we are presenting, you are getting a sneak peek because we are presenting to the council at business session this Thursday, but we had the opportunity to come speak with you this week. We didn't want to skip it and come back in a month. We wanted it to be fresh. So you'll hear a lot more on all of this data hopefully later in the week, and like I said, we'll make sure that you all have access to the report, and we're happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Any questions?
Thank you very much.
Okay,
Good
Julie,
job.
thank you
Thank you
very
for the
much.
opportunity.
Appreciate it.
Thank you for doing that. Good work.
Okay, considering board approval for community centers youth zone program fees.
Yes, Commissioners, we have a memo from Linda, and we have a fee as indicated, $20 is listed in the third paragraph for the youth zone program fee. And Linda's here to answer any questions you might have.
Good afternoon.
Afternoon, Linda.
Can you just talk about the program a little bit?
The Youth Zone Program, we're excited to bring it back. This is our second year. We started last year, and we had about 177 participants. This year, we anticipate 200. It's a youth after-school program for the ages 11 to 17 at all of our community centers, and it's after-school from 2:30 to 5:30. They'll be involved in mentorship programs. They'll go on field trips. They'll have basketball leagues. There'll be available time for like building resumes, career opportunity building, and things like that.
Okay, great. And it's at all the community centers?
It's at all the community centers except for Line Creek, but we're considering Line Creek also.
Sounds great. Move to approve.
Don't get ahead of me. Resolution number 30274, considering board approval for 30273, considering board approval of community centers youth program fee.
Move to approve.
And seconded. Motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion? All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Considering board approval for memorandum of understanding with Mattie Road Center for a mural arts inspiring transformation program.
Yes, Commissioners, Roosevelt, if you want to come to the podium, and I know we have Councilman Wagner in the audience as well, and we talked a little bit about the MAP it. Is it okay to call it MAP it?
Yep.
Okay.
There's actually one word missing in there. It's mural arts program inspiring transformation. So map it. And I'm just going to talk a little bit, and I'll let Councilman Wagner jump in there, and he can talk about kind of how we got this started. And also JT Daniels is here from Mattie Road, so if you have any questions, he's a youth coordinator over there. So there's a youth component to this program as well. So this MOU is for, it's an agreement with Mattie Roads to help us administer this program to put some murals up on some of our parks and recreation facilities, some of our community centers, and some of our parks facilities to help abate graffiti, but also to beautify some of those sites. We'll be receiving funds from PIAC to pass along to Mattie Road, so they'll actually hire the lead artists. They'll use some of our full employment council workers who are working in some of our community centers right now, who will assist with some of those murals, and they'll do the actual work and pay for we'll pay for the materials and all those kind of things that go along with it. So this agreement is for up to $67,000. That's contingent upon receiving funds from PIAC. We've had some, so far we've had some commitments from the 3rd, 4th, and 1st district so far. And we'll see if we get others. So we won't start a mural until we get approval, until we get those funds in and all those kind of things. So that's kind of the nuts and bolts, and I can answer any questions about that. It will expire March 31st. We'll probably finish by the end of this year, but we want to give ourselves enough time in case we needed to come back and do anything else And maybe Councilman Wagner could kind of talk about how he got this started and who's at the table and all that good stuff.
Well, good afternoon.
Welcome, Councilman Wagner.
I'm somewhat weirded out because it seems like almost every day I've seen those two guys and him too. So I don't know what their
That's
plans are
weird
for
enough.
tomorrow, but I don't plan to see them.
We could say the same thing.
Well, I know. I know you never want to see me because I'm always asking for something. But at any rate, it is a pleasure to be here with you this afternoon and to talk about this program. This really had its genesis several months ago as we have had a Gateway Crimes group that has been meeting for the last couple of years. And one of our focuses has been on graffiti, partially because sometimes it pertains to some larger crimes that may be in an area, but it also suggests that we have youth who really need other more positive ways to interact with their community. So we've had multiple strategies at work. One has been an abatement strategy that we are working on with our Neighborhoods and Housing Services Department. Another one is this strategy. This is not a new strategy by any means. If you're familiar with the city of Philadelphia, you know that a mural arts program has been a big part of their urban abatement strategy. Over the past 30 years, they've done about 3,000 murals all over their city, and they have done a great bit of work. And part of the idea with what they have been able to accomplish is to really create opportunities for youth who want to get into arts. And part of that comes, not just from doing a pretty picture, but getting to a point of doing artwork that is commissionable, that can become a job for them down the road. And so what we have tried to do with this program is to take advantage of some real opportunities that we have. Roosevelt mentioned the opportunity we have that you are aware of with our State Parks program, and you have been doing that program now for the past few months. And we're hopeful that that is a program that sustains over time because there will always be state parks in this state, and there will always be parks in this city, and therefore we hope to have those dollars continue to come from the state. But because of that opportunity, as it is brought through the Full Employment Council, we hoped to create a pilot, which this is part of that pilot, with the idea that if we can show the private giving philanthropic community about what this could do for our youth, and for that matter to beautify and to deal with some of our graffiti abatement issues, that we can move more towards a private funding model. And we've begun to have those discussions as we've had this discussion. We've had Kansas City Power and Light at the table. We have had the KCMO CDE at the table. We've had LISC at the table. And we believe that by demonstrating what we can do over the next several months with this program on our parks properties, that it opens up the possibility for more private funding and also that funding going towards mitigating or creating more murals on private properties. Because as we know, graffiti just doesn't happen on parks properties, it happens everywhere. And so, but we need to demonstrate what we're talking about, and this is what this particular resolution is about here. So we have been able to frankly piece together a pilot. And we hope in doing so and allowing our youth the opportunity to participate, that we have something that next summer is much larger, is beyond just our public properties, and really launches us on a trajectory that not only allows us to match what Philadelphia has accomplished, but to really to get there in less than 30 years. Maybe that's 15, don't know. Maybe it's 20, don't know. But this is a trajectory that I think we've all recognized as a positive one for our youth. We have the ability through Maddie Rhodes to have an organization that understands how to mentor youth. And hopefully the youth that we work with this year become the mentors for next year, and it begins to grow exponentially. So I'll stop there, but I will at least say some thank yous before I do stop with Roosevelt, with Maddie Rhodes, with everyone in the park department, Terry and Linda and Mark, with the Full Employment Council, and lastly, our Municipal Arts Commission, Porter Arneal, who has really taken the ball on this to help fill out what we're doing here and continues to be a part of that. I will say, the Municipal Arts Commission a couple of months ago gave their blessing, didn't really ask them to do anything, but did want their blessing for what we are trying to do, so we have that, and we hope for your support today. And so with that, thank you for your consideration, and I'll open it up for questions that JT or others with a lot more knowledge can answer better than I.
Are there any questions? Okay, seeing none, we will vote on the resolution. Commissioner Bryant will recuse herself from this in that she's a board member of Mattie Road. As respects resolution number 30274, considering approval of memorandum of understanding with Mattie Roads, is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. Motion passes. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Thanks, Councilman.
Considering board approval for bid award, National Streetscapes for Cliff Drive Recreational Improvements Project.
Yes, Commissioners, make a recommendation for the contract to go to National Streetscape. You have a memo in your packet from Travis Kiefer that outlines what's in the scope of the project and participation from the Missouri Highway Transportation Department. And if you have any questions, Travis is here to answer those.
Okay. Give us a quick overview, Travis, could you please?
Good afternoon, Commissioners. This project is a continuation of the work on Cliff Drive that was designed by Dubois Consulting. They were consultants on the project. Scott Overbay is project manager on this project, and this is a continuation of the overlooks and so forth from the trail system that goes along Cliff Drive. You'll notice that there's about the 5,300 square feet of concrete trail that would equate to roughly 500 linear feet if you were looking at the length of the trail. A lot of reclamation of the stairs and overlooks, and then providing ADA accessibility on those overlooks with ADA ramps and then curb stops and so forth for folks that need that level of accessibility.
The stone wall, is some of that WPA?
And the stairs, yes,
All
this,
that.
yes.
Yeah, that's,
Let's see.
might even predate that.
It's good to see all the ADA compliance work too.
Any further questions? Resolution 30275, considering board approval for bid award for National Streetscape for Cliff Drive recreational improvements. Do I hear a motion for approval?
So
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Considering board approval for bid award for RAND construction of Kansas City Zoo Animal Hospital HVAC replacement.
Yes, Commissioners, again, you have a memo in your packet from Travis that outlines the scope of services. There's a bid tab attached. We had 3 bidders on this project. Recommendation to RAND. Again, if you have any questions, Travis is here to answer those.
Are there any questions? Hearing none, resolution number 30276, considering board approval for bid award to RAND Construction for Kansas City Zoo Animal Hospital HVAC replacement. Do I hear a motion for approval?
So moved.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion's passed. Thank you. Consideration of board approval for change order number 6 with D&D Custom Construction for 2013 Boulevard Reconstruction Project in the amount of $47,950. Travis?
Yeah, questions for Travis? Otherwise, we recommend approval.
Are there any questions? Hearing none. Resolution number 30277, considering board approval change order number 6 with D&D Construction. All those in favor? Or is there a motion for approval? Pardon me.
So moved. Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion's approved. Considering board approval for change order number 3 with National Streetscape for 2014 Boulevard reconstruction projects.
Yes, Commissioners, I think about the fourth paragraph outlines the scope. This is pretty much work occurring over here on Lewis Road in conjunction with the Swope Park Soccer Village. Recommend approval. Again, Travis is here to answer any questions.
Are there any questions? Hearing none, resolution number 320278, considering board approval for change order number 3 with National Streetscape. Is there a motion for approval?
So moved.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Board approval for gifts and contributions.
Yes, we have 3 gifts, as spelled out in the memo from Carmen, and we would recommend acceptance.
So moved.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded on resolution number 30279. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion's approved. Director's report.
Yeah, that's John. Yes, John. Travis? Yeah, that's it.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. We have a couple items before you. The first one is continuation of the trail improvements at Clark Ketterman, and you'll notice that some of that was started with this contract. That will be completed August 15th, and then the change order that you just approved for D&D will be additional work out there at Clark Ketterman, and this is constructing the ADA access and improvements between the fields and replacing a lot of the walkways and so forth that have deteriorated over the years. One of the areas out there wasn't just a matter of replacing the walkway, but also improving the drainage. You can see a low spot in the side out there that needed to be improved. So,
What's the lifespan on these trails, concrete trails? What do you have in your?
when the drainage is corrected with them, you should be looking at anywhere from 20 to 30 years on those. Next one is the citywide trail maintenance. This is down at the trailhead near 99th and Shepherd Drive for the Blue River Trail. And Richard Allen is project manager on this project, and you can see that there was a large CMP, or corrugated metal pipe is what CMP stands for, and it was collapsed in the center and plugged up, so they had to excavate that and replace it with a new pipe. That's on the next page there, and add riprap in for the drainage to dissipate the energy of the water as it passes through the pipe. You can see the large area inlet that was put in there to collect the water, to keep it from running across the road, because that's where a lot of the erosion began. So they also installed some fencing and bollards to keep the vehicular traffic off of the trail.
Looks good.
Thank you very much.
Great. Thank you.
Thanks, Travis.
Heidi, marketing, please.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
We're very, very busy. Of course, National Parks and Recreation Month is over, but we're into August, which is huge, particularly this upcoming weekend. But I wanted to tell you some of the stats, more stats. I'm sure you want to hear those. That we have from our promotions that we did during National Parks and Recreation Month in July. As you know, it was about a year ago, actually, officially, that we launched the new website as part of our National Parks and Recreation Month campaign. And last July, we had 22,233 visitors to the site. We've gone up every month, increased visitors every month. And this year, we had another record-breaking month with 45,408 visitors to our website. So that's an increase from even June, the previous month, of 2,500. So people are learning where to go to get their information from us. We had an increase, of course, in website conversions, which means when people are coming to our site, they're doing something. They're downloading a permit, downloading a flyer or a program guide, or signing up for a shelter or an event permit, or sending us an email. They're doing some sort of interacting with us. And then we had a huge increase, of course, which was kind of our goal for the campaign with hashtag KC Parks, of our visitors from social media. 154% increase from the month before for people who visited our site coming from Twitter, Facebook, or Instagram. So, and just as well, we had an additional about 300 likes on Facebook, 200 more followers on Twitter, and the same, about 100 more on Instagram just during that month, which are really big numbers for us. And you can see, I ran a Twitter and a Facebook report for you. So you can, it's kind of interesting to see when we peaked, who's following us, the demographics. You can see here when you look at Twitter and Facebook that the demographics, as far as followers on Twitter, 60% are male, 40% are female. It's basically flip-flopped on Facebook, which I think is kind of interesting. You can see the daily interactions, and of course we spiked around the July 20th, which was the big picnic, and we had a lot of social media on that, and a lot of positive response to the big picnic as well. We did some surveying of the crowd while we were there, and had some key findings. 100% of the people who we interviewed said that they were there for the big picnic, so that's kind of cool. They didn't just stumble upon it. They came with intention and had heard about it. And they were, 100% of them were either somewhat satisfied or very satisfied with their experience. They were saying great weather, beautiful park, nice relaxing event, entertainment, musicians, a great way to spend time with family. Of course, these would have been a lot different, I'm sure, if it was 105 degrees or rainy, but we lucked out on the weather. 60% of the visitors said they were most likely to post their pictures from the event with the hashtag KC Big Picnic, KC Big Parks, or Art Park 25, which was the celebration that was going on at the museum as well. 70% of each interview participant said that the ice cream giveaway was very important. So it's extremely important that we plan the big picnic in conjunction, food is always important, in conjunction with National Ice Cream Day, which it happened to fall upon this year, and we've already scheduled it for next year to be the same day. Some of the recommendations for future were, of course, more food trucks and more ice cream. And then an adult area, interesting, that, you know, might serve adult beverages. So these are some of the things that we are looking into maybe for next year. But overall, people commented about the event using words such as Kansas City, community event, fun, relaxing, or we came to support the community. So it was a really good time, and both entities who did it, the museum and us, are very pleased with it and have scheduled it for 2015 for July the 19th. So that will be the big picnic and National Ice Cream Day. So we'll have to get Bluebell back there with more scoops of ice cream, because they came with 3,000 and they ran out. So, okay, so let's talk about this weekend.
Any idea about the attendance, total attendance?
Yeah, well, we are estimating just over 3,000.
Just over 3,000.
So, as soon as the ice cream ran out, people went home.
Quit coming, okay.
And that is such a big space. It's amazing. 3,000 people don't even come close to filling Tice and the sculpture garden. But everyone kind of stays over, of course, in the trees while the sun was out, and then they kind of filtered out later on in the evening. But it was a good time, like I said, and we're looking forward to doing it again. Okay, this weekend is a big one. Starting on Friday, when Tony Hawk, who is a professional skateboarder, if you don't know that, will be appearing at our Penn Valley Skate Park. He will be doing a demonstration with his skateboarding team from 4 to 4:45. He will also have a personal meet and greet with some of the sponsors. If you guys would like to meet him before that, let me know. We'll get your name on the list. That would be at 3 o'clock that day. You can get your picture taken, and you can bring one item for him to sign. So there are your ground rules. And then, of course, the Ethnic Enrichment Festival begins on Friday evening and carries through Sunday over here at Swope Park. If you missed it when you drove by, you weren't paying any attention because the world is springing up across the street from us. The request for the commissioners, of course, is always the Saturday afternoon at 4 o'clock when they do the Parade of Flags, if you're able to be there. just show up and head to the stage or let me know, and we'll let Melinda give her a heads up that you'll be there as well. And then right after that, you can head on over or head on down to Rock the Block, because that's taking place. And I handed you guys the information there. At Union Station, they will have an official kind of thank you of the sponsors at 5:45. So if you would like to go to that and be recognized by the mayor and thanked by the mayor and appreciated in front of the crowd of 4,000 people who are there for free hot dogs, let me know and I'll get you a parking pass. And then also that morning, Saturday morning, we have the official opening of the streetscape improvements for Cleaver Boulevard, and that will take place at Cleaver and the Paseo, which may or may not be known as Kiley Park.
It's the north half of Kiley Park.
Thank you. And it is just to the east of Gates Barbecue there. So we'll have Congressman Cleaver will be there, and we will cut an orange ribbon.
What time should we plan on being there for that?
It's at 10 o'clock.
10?
So just maybe a few minutes
Sure.
prior to.
There's probably ample parking there in the restaurant's parking lot.
Yeah, because they wouldn't be open for breakfast. I don't know. I would eat barbecue for breakfast. Okay. You would too? Good. And then we have, on the following Wednesday, the Off-Leash Dog Park opening, which is the partnership between us and North Kansas City, and that is there at Northeast 32nd and Swift. The actual official opening of the gates will take place at 5:15, but we'll have kind of a dog-centric vendor pet show, I guess, for lack of a better word, from 5 to 7. So they'll be there so people can check out what kind of dog stuff is offered in the area, and then it just goes on from there. Chiefs Red Friday, we have our dog swim party, as I handed you some information. We have the Heartland Heat Triathlon. I don't know, Commissioner Judy, if you do triathlons or are ready to do one. This would be a great, try. You don't like swimming?
Everything but. My bike has flat tires.
We had the Shoal Creek Parkway opening on Friday. Did you see the article?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a nice article that
Yeah.
Jesus did.
Yeah, he got the statistics even correct.
That's good. It's always nice when the media gets it right. Not that never happens. And I have yard signs.
Yay.
So if you'd like to take home a Rock the Block yard sign and put it in your yard, we would appreciate that. That's all I have.
Good.
Thanks.
Thanks, Heidi.
All righty. Public hearing, Keith Nelson.
Thanks again for allowing me to come before you. I first want to thank the commissioners for all your volunteer time and the sacrifice you have to make on behalf of the city. I do appreciate that. I know what volunteering is like. I once had a neighbor that used to volunteer, so that's a dumb joke, isn't it? I also want to thank the Parks Department and the Kansas City Police Department in the commitment they made and the effort they made in protecting our new assets at Hidden Valley Park during Independence Day. It was a terrific job. I'm sure that we made a lot of taxpayers happy in the fact that it wasn't a war zone out there. I'm sure that we made a lot of taxpayers mad because normally there's 100 or more cars parked on the park grass, and it's like a war zone. They shoot their Roman candles horizontally and kids running everywhere. So with the effort that you made, I'm sure that it instilled in many's mind that Hidden Valley Park is a more family-friendly park than it has been in the past. So on behalf of our neighborhood association, I do want to thank you guys for the efforts. And obviously, it costs money to do that, so the funding as well. So thank you very much for that. I have a couple of subjects that I wanted to cover. I'm going to start with something light here. I do volunteer work at the Clay County Archives, And hot off the press is this new book. You'll recognize the cover.
Yeah.
And this is Discovering Historic Clay County, Missouri. There is 1,100 historical sites in here. Years ago, volunteers at the archives produced a large map, I think 36 by 42, of all these historical places marked on that map. And unbeknownst to us until recently, we found the description of all of these historical sites. And so Tony Myers, one of the volunteers at the archives, took it on, along with other volunteers, to take that map and break it out into segments and to identify each one of these historical sites. Bring this before you guys because there's a lot of park stuff in here. You know, there's Garrett Arnold's house, who we have at the Shoal Creek Living Museum, Thornton's house, which we have at the museum. A lot of park stuff in here as well, and the Parks Department and Shoal Creek are recognized in here as well for the contribution. So I want to thank you for that.
Where are those available?
Excuse me?
Where are those available?
At the archives.
At the archives.
And they're $25. All of the proceeds go to the archives, and as you may or may not know, it's operated off of volunteers, and the funding is through membership and those who walk in the door to do printing of material. Great source if you live in Clay County for genealogy. It's a repository for the probate records and abstracts. It's a wonderful organization. So this is one of our fundraisers. And if you happen to miss, we did another one that came on the market just last year, Divided Loyalties. This in commemoration of the 150th anniversary of the Civil War. We did research on over 900 people, but 812 soldiers, Civil War soldiers, are featured in the book. There's over 600 photographs in here. So if you have ancestors that you might think that are buried in Clay County that was Civil War veterans in this book. So that also is a fundraiser. Now, for the main reason that I came to ask for your help. Our neighborhood association, the past probably 5 years, have requested through PIAC funding to recognize one of the city's founding fathers, Francois Chouteau, by constructing a historical monument and fountain. And we would like to put that at Chouteau and Missouri 210 Highway. On the cover there is the Greenway, the Buckeye Greenway, and I'm here to see what we have to do to designate or dedicate the area for a historical fountain. We would like to have the fountain depicting Francois Chouteau, who in 1819 set up a temporary trading post on what they called at the time the Randolph Bluffs, which is real close to the Chouteau Bridge. It's probably closer to Harrah's at Rock Creek, is where the first white settlement was in our city. And then later he was flooded out, and he set up another trading post at the confluence of the Kaw River and the Missouri River. But in order to recognize our city father, we would like to do the historical marker and the fountain. As you know, 99% of all of the fountains for the city of Fountains are south of the river. There's two major ones north of the river, the Northland Fountain at North Oak and Vivian, and then we have the Children's Fountain now at it's in Kansas City now, thank goodness, but at the border of North Kansas City and Kansas City. So those are our main two. Yet we have gateways into the older neighborhoods in the Northland. There's a few intersections on 210 Highway. The first is the Choteau, the new Choteau Parkway. The next one's North Brighton, and then Searcy Creek Parkway. Those are great gateways to the old communities. Our Wynwood, Briarcliff area study plan calls out that we should have arts at the gateways to our neighborhoods and on primary streets, and so this would definitely comply with that. We have hired a artist to do a concept drawing so we can rally the folks for contributions to help pay for it, but most of all to gain support. We already have a lot of verbal support from all of the neighborhoods in the area, whether it's the Choteau neighborhood group or the Shawmere neighborhood group or the Sunny Brook Wynwood neighborhood group, Holiday Hills. They've all expressed a great desire to see this fountain also. In the pictures here, the second picture, well, I guess the first few pages, show the corner of the intersection of Missouri 210 Highway and Choteau Traffic Way. This would be the northeast corner, and it is City Parkland, Buckeye Greenway. And that's where we would like to see the fountain be placed. It would be the closest place available for us in Kansas City to recognize our founding father. Realistically, again, it was probably North Kansas City at Rock Creek and the Missouri River is where it was, but we're just half mile or so from there where we're proposing to do this. There's a separation here with this blue piece of paper. The last picture of the corner was during construction. This is off of a Google. This was during the construction of the Choteau Traffic Way. After the blue piece of paper is, in my opinion, an opportunity to help pay for the fountain. And once again, how do we go about this? But this piece of property here is at Searcy Creek Parkway and 210 Highway. And that cliff and that bluff is owned by us. That's City Parkland, Searcy Creek Parkland. And because of the selling of the dirt by our neighbor, which is Purcell, I believe, they created this drop-off bluff for us and left this unusable parcel of land. And what I would like to see happen is for us to make that piece of land usable by doing the exact same thing that Purcell is and selling off the dirt, and the proceeds go towards the Francois Choteau fountain. Both of these pictures, one of them is a Google picture, the next one, but it shows how awful that terrain is there and how it's useless. Now, whether we haul the dirt ourselves for one of our projects or whether we subcontract with Purcell to continue doing what he did, and I would propose that we do it to the first gully to the north and flatten that area like he has so the property is useful, but somehow tie that in to where the proceeds would go to help with the fountain. The last piece on there, well, excuse me, it's not the last piece, but the next piece is our proposal that we've made to PIAC requesting funding for the project. Once again, we have hired this young man, and I'll butcher his name, unfortunately, but it's Quan Wu, I believe it is, Kynwanwu. We have hired him to do a concept drawing, and as you can see from this last page, he's done a lot of sculptures for the help me, Negro League Museum, and also some other monuments. So, I need to know how to go forward on this. Do we need a resolution, a memorandum of understanding, or how do I gain support from the commissioners to go forward with this?
I think you've had, help me remember, Keith, Steve Abbott was working with you a little bit on this, and am I remembering that right?
I've introduced this several times. One of them was during the public meetings for the Shoto Parkway. Now, Steve was working with us on a recognition plaque for the old community Moscow, which was at the corner of Parvin Road and Shoto, further north.
And that's still an active project, too, isn't it?
Yes, it is. Jimmy Losey gave us a bid of $10,000 to do
Jim Rice was involved somehow.
Jim Rice helped us with the language. We submitted language, and he edited the language, reduced it in size to help us. So that's a different project, but certainly we.
It's on the same Shoto traffic.
Yeah, yeah. This project, the location is ideal as far as visibility. You can see it both eastbound and westbound on 210, and of course going up Shoto Traffic Way.
And you made a request to an in-district PIAC, is that what?
Yes, I have, and in the past I've also, because of the size of the project, did a citywide PIAC proposal.
So those are coming up next week, I believe.
Yes, and I'll be there to make a
I mean, that's
proposal there.
like any of these, there's always about, there's money part of this, of course.
Mhm.
So continue with that. We worked with Quan Wu before. There's one of these projects that we worked with him on is in your portfolio of information here.
Okay.
And so he's doing a concept?
He is doing the concept drawing. Currently, he's in China for the next 2 months teaching, but he may be working on it during that period of time as well.
Two other organizations that come to mind when we talk about fountains and monuments. One is the Municipal Art Commission, who reviews all public art out throughout the city. And it was mentioned earlier by Councilman Wagner and Porter Arneal. So we'll probably should visit with him at some time. And then also City of Fountains Foundation, who's pretty much involved in all of our fountains in the city. So those are two kind of follow-up organizations.
Okay. Jim Rice contacted Porter a few years back and said it was nothing that was on their scope, but we hope to convince him to put it on the scope.
Tie that back around.
Yeah.
Well, that was before the Parkway was in. That may
Could have
be
been, yeah.
a little higher up on their
Mhm.
scope right now because of the Parkway.
Mhm.
So we'll
But-
go with another approach.
What about, my intention is to go before all of the neighborhood associations north of the river and get a letter of endorsement from them. In doing that, they're probably going to ask me, is the city going to allow you to put it at this location? So how do I need to get that commitment?
Well, it looks like the space is open. I mean, you're just visualizing what's there. It's open space. And if your line is correct, it's obviously in the city of North Kansas City, south of what we're talking about. So it's the piece. I think at this point, see what Quan Wu comes up with, the sketch we can look at, I trust.
Yes, obviously.
And we can arrange some contact with those other two, the Municipal Art Commission and the City of Fountains Foundation.
Okay.
So those are like three things, I guess I would mention. And then the fourth thing that you're working on already is PIAC, and see where they come up with some, initially funds for any of these things are going to be, for design, prior to any kind of construction.
Mhm.
So, and that's just a few quick thoughts.
Yeah, I'm sure that it's going to be done in phases because of the high cost. But we'd like to establish a fountain committee
Yeah.
in order
It's
to
appropriate.
pursue funding.
Right, that.
Great.
Okay.
Any questions?
Okay. Once again, thanks for your help.
Thank you very much.
Thanks for all you're doing.
Keith. Okay, anybody else from the public? If not, we're adjourned. Thank you. Carmen?
Okay.
Four.
Thank you.